Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. Continuing our series today on Dungeon Master's Rulebook. We're still working our way through the monsters, and I believe we left off after having completed dwarf. What it would be more appropriate than elf? That's right. Um, as someone pointed out, this edition still has the demi-humans and humans in the monsters section. So you have these like generic, you know, monster version encounterable uh, elves, dwarves, halflings, that kind of stuff, right? And that can be very convenient in a sense of, what if I need to just basically make a generic base level whatever, elf. So we encounter like 20 of them, right? Um, this is what you would do, right? So we have, let's get into it. Elf. Armor class 5, typically. Hit dice 1 asterisk. Move 120 feet slash 40. Attacks by 1 weapon. Damage by weapon. Number appearing 1 to 4 or 2 to 24 in their lair. Uh, you know, uh, you work out the mythology for yourself. Save as Elf 1, oddly enough. Morale 8 or 10. I imagine this is much like the Dwarf 8 or 10. Treasure type S and T, E in the lair. Now, I'm just going to compare that to dwarves real quick. Dwarf was Q and S and G in the lair. So S was a certain amount of gold, basically. T, I don't know off the top of my head, but again, it's in our personal level. And E is definitely different than G. So let's just go over here real quick. I should probably put a little bookmark on the treasure table for now. T is no chance of copper, no chance of silver, no chance of electrum. Let's see, no chance of gold. It's 1 to 6 pieces of platinum per individual, and then nothing else. So it's literally just 1 to 6 pieces of platinum for treasure type T. S, as you recall, was none of these also, but it was actually 2 to 8 gold per individual and nothing else. So each elf will have a few gold pieces and a few pieces of platinum on them. That's not nothing, depending on your local currency accommodations. Are you on a copper, silver, or gold standard of your economy, right? But let's see, it was treasure type E in the lair. So that's A, B, C, D, E. So 5% chance of 1 to 10,000 copper, 30% chance of 1 to 12,000 silver, 25% chance of 1 to 4,000 electrum, 25% chance of 1 to 8,000 gold, 1, 2, 3, 4, no thousands of platinum, despite them carrying it around with them. 10% chance of 1 to 10 gems, 10% chance of 1 to 10 jewelry, 25% chance of any 3 magic items, and a scroll. So not as generous as the dwarf loot, but it is it's a air. They're elves. They're not so materialistic, are they? Yeah, sometimes the elves are not very Tolkien either. Elves can also appear as NPCs. Each elf will have one first level spell chosen at random. When a group of 15 or more elves appears, one of them will be a leader elf, level 22 to 7, to check for possible magic items that the leader may have. Multiply the leader's level by 5. So that's between 10 and 35% chance. The result is percentage chance for that leader to have a magic item from any one of the magic subtables. So you're basically making a 10 to 35% chance against each subtable. Roll separately for each subtable and check all the magic subtables. As long as the leader is alive, elven morale is 10 rather than 8. And that's all we have to say about generic elves, I guess. Ferret, giant. Armor class 5. Hit dice 1 plus 1. So, not too monstrous. That's a d8 plus 1, right? Boom. That's a 3 plus 1 is 4, right? Um, As a 150-foot slash 50-foot move, so they're pretty fast moving. Attacks by 1 bite. Damage is 1 to 8 for a bite. Number appearing 1 to 8 or 1 to 12 in their lair. Save as fighter 1. Morale 8. No treasure whatsoever. Alignment neutral. XP value is 15 each. Giant ferrets look like 3-foot long weasels. I mean, I guess ferrets look a lot like weasels. They hunt giant rats underground and are sometimes trained for this purpose. Unfortunately, their tempers are highly unpredictable, and they have been known to attack their trainers and other humans. Like, I guess if if you had a giant rat problem, a giant ferret problem is an answer to the giant rat problem. But then what's your answer to the giant ferret problem? Giant wolf? Giant dog? What's your answer to the giant dog problem? It goes on. um, Gargoyle has an asterisk here. Armor class 5. Hit dice 4, 2 stars. Move 90 foot slash 30 while flying 150 slash 50. Their attacks are 2 claws, a bite, and a horn. The claws are 1 to 3 each, so that's half d6. D6 for the bite, and the horn is a d4, 1 to 4. Number appearing 1 to 6 in the wild, 2 to 8 in a lair. Gargoyle lair is probably going to be a ruin, a cavern of some type. Let's see. Save as fighter 8. That's quite a high save. Morale 11. They're not likely to run. Treasure type C. And so there's no like in brackets, so that's their layer only. They are chaotic. XP value 125 each. Gargoyles are magical monsters and can only be hit with magical weapons. As pictured in medieval architecture, they are horned, clawed, fanged, winged, hideous-looking beasts. Their skin often looks exactly like stone, and they are often mistaken to be statues. Gargoyles are very cunning and at least semi-intelligent. They will attack nearly anything that approaches them. Gargoyles are not affected by sleep or charm spells. The DM should not use gargoyles unless the player characters have at least one magical weapon. Which is only fair, right? Unless you manage to set this up in some way that the party can evade or, has a choice of avoiding this combat, they should not be involved in a combat with a monster they have no chance against. Because if they have no magic weapons and like the magic user has like a non-damaging weapon spell, even if the magic user has a damaging spell, you're going to need more than just one for a 4-hit dice creature, right? That's 48, so that's 4 to 36 hit points for each gargoyle. Fan favorite, gelatinous cube. The killer lime jello, right? Armor class 8, hit dice 4, so again, that's a 4 to 36 hit points. Its move is 60 foot slash 20, so it's not very fast moving. It's fast enough, but, it's not going to overrun the party unless the party's incapacitated by some means. It has 1 attack. The damage is 2 to 8, so that's 2d4, plus special, which we'll get into. The number appearing is 1, which I would say, when you're going to run into a gelatinous cube, will be in a dungeon. These are the dungeon maintenance crew kind of monsters, and generally it's a cleaner, right? So it's going around wandering through a corridor, and that's why it tends to be a cube, is that it's shaped like the corridor, right? And it's just moving its way along, eating whatever it comes across. But somehow in a lair, you can encounter 1 to 4 of them. I don't know. I've never had a gelatinous cube lair encounter in my life, but I mean, now I'm trying to think up one. Honestly, maybe a sewer. Yeah. Save as fighter 2, morale 12. They don't really break. Treasure type V. That's individually. And so each one will have its treasure on it. Alignment neutral, because it is really a non-intelligent creature. XP value 125. This monster is made of clear jelly. Now I made a joke about the lime jello, but really it is meant to be clear, right? practically hard to discern. Monsters made of clear jelly, usually in the form of a 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot cube, though other shapes are possible. It is hard to see and surprises often, 1 to 4 on a d6. Right? So that's a two-third chance it'll surprise the party because they don't even notice. A gelatinous cube moves through the rooms and corridors of a dungeon, sweeping the halls clean of all living and dead material. In the process, it may pick up items it cannot dissolve, such as weapons, coins, and gems. It will attack any living creature it encounters. Any successful hit will paralyze the victim unless a saving throw versus paralysis is made. An attack on a paralyzed victim will automatically hit. Only a damage roll is needed. Thus, paralysis is the normal type, lasting 2 to 8 turns. This paralysis is of the normal type, lasting 2 to 8 turns. So that's 20 to 160 minutes, unless magically cured. A gelatinous cube may be harmed by fire and weapons, but not by cold or lightning. The lair of these strange monsters may contain 1 to 4 cubes, each with treasure type V, but usually with no additional treasure. So, you know, let's go over and look at treasure type V. I know you're curious. Let's go have a look. And we haven't discussed V yet, I don't think. So V is an individual treasure type again. No copper. 10% chance of 1 to 100 silver. 5% chance of 1 to 100 electrum. 10% chance of 1 to 100 gold pieces. 5% chance of 1 to 100 platinum pieces. So you can see it's fairly low chances, but we have a lot of options. No gems. 10% chance of 1 to 4 pieces of jewelry. And a 5% chance of any one magic item. So, if you encounter enough of them, you're going to probably find something eventually that's of interest. It is nice that it's 125 XP for defeating the freaking thing. They aren't necessarily easy encounters for low-level players. But, it's nice if you have the treasure already determined, then you can use that as a clue as to if they notice what it is, or use it in the description, right? Like, if they're not surprised, they might notice, like, you kind of notice some coins just floating in the air, moving it down the corridor, right? Or you notice a few glints down the corridor down the way. Something like that. Ghoul. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm comfortable with the pronunciation of ghoul, and not gowl, right? I'm pretty sure that's ghoul. Armor class 6. Hit dice 2 star. Move 90/30. Attacks 2 claws and /1 bite. Damage 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, and special. So the claws and bites really are all half 6. 1 to 6 will appear regular or in their lair 2 to 16. Save is fighter 2, morale 9, treasure type B in their lair, alignment chaotic, XP value 25. Now this is our first undead creature we've read about here so far. And if you remember the solo adventure, this is something that we were evading because they were something that we didn't want to tangle with, right? Ghouls are undead creatures immune to sleep and charm spells. They are hideous, beast-like humans who will attack any living thing. Any hit from a ghoul will paralyze any creature of ogre size or smaller except elves. Elves are immune to this paralysis. Unless the victim makes a saving throw versus paralysis. Once an opponent is paralyzed, the ghoul will turn and attack another opponent, continuing until either the ghoul or all opponents are paralyzed or dead. This paralysis is the normal type, lasting 2 to 8 turns, unless magically cured. And you can magically cure it with a potion of healing spell, or potion, but that is used in place of the curative effects you would otherwise get. So you don't, instead of curing hit points, it cures the paralysis. And, that's, can you wait 20 to 160 minutes? Can you sit through Titanic unable to move? You're in a dungeon. You be the judge. So, they don't do a hideous amount of damage by themselves, but the paralysis is a real stinker, right? And they're 2 hit die creatures for the purposes of turning. Your cleric may have a harder time sending them away or destroying them with upper levels, right? They're more robust than zombies and skeletons, but they're not like vampires or wights. Um, the gnoll. I always enjoy a good gnoll. I don't see gnolls used enough, honestly. They're not necessarily dungeon creatures in my mind, but they are good orc replacements, I consider them. Um, Armor class 5, hit dice 2, move 90/30, attack 1 by weapon, basically, and their damage is weapon plus 1, right? So they're kind of strong. So whatever the base weapon damage is, add 1 point. Number appearing 1 to 6 or 3 to 18 in their camp. Save as fighter 2, morale 8. Yeah, they tend to they're prone to breaking, right? They're like, how orcs are classically like pig people. Gnolls are like hyena people. Um, Treasure type P on the gnoll, D in their lair. We'll get to that. They are chaotic. They are 20 XP each. Gnolls are beings of low intelligence that appear to be human-like hyenas. They may use all weapons. They are strong but dislike work and prefer to bully and steal. For every 20 gnolls encountered, one will be a leader with 16 hit points who attacks as a 3 hit dice monster. Gnolls are rumored to be the result of magical combination of gnome and a troll by an evil magic user. Do with that what you will. I like to use larger weapons on gnolls as well, like spears, two-handed swords, halberds, that kind of stuff. Pole arms. Just because I tend to use them in outdoor settings. But you use your gnolls the way you want to use your gnolls. But let's get into that treasure. Treasure type P/D. So again, these are treasures we've not seen before. So let's get into that, right? And I am just going to learn my lesson and go and put a flag over here on this because I need to come back to here regular apparently. So P is at the top of our solo treasure type. So yeah, we got some copper here, 3 to 24 pieces per individual. No silver, no electrum, no gold, no platinum, no gems, no jewelry, no magic items. So 3 to 24 copper pieces per individual is not very much at all, but it is treasure, right? Now, D is their lair. So if you destroy the gnoll camp, you might encounter 10% chance of 1 to 8,000 copper, 15% chance of 1 to 12,000 silver, no chance of electrum, a 60% chance of 1 to 6,000 gold pieces. So that's something, right? Continuing on to the lower table, no chance of any platinum, 30% chance of 1 to 8 gems, 30% chance of 1 to 8 pieces of jewelry, and a 15% chance of any 2 magic items and a potion. So that's interesting. They may have some okay loot, right? Gnome. Now, gnomes aren't player characters for the most part in this edition of the game, or even regular NPCs that you quite often encounter, but they do develop into that. Like there are gnomes in the first Gazetteer mentioned, and like in Top Ballista that you can get a playable gnome character. But those are in expansion content. This is just the base level of the game, and obviously we're going to have a NPC version of something. Gnome, armor class 5, 1 hit die, move 60/20, damage and attack by weapon. No number appearing 1 to 8 or 5 to 40 in their gnome hole or whatever you want to call it. Save as dwarf 1. Morale 8 or 10. Again, probably very similar to what we've seen before. Treasure type P on the personal or C in their hull. Alignment lawful or neutral. XP value 10 each. Gnomes are a human-like race related to but smaller than dwarves with long noses and full beards. Gnomes have well-developed infravision and 90-foot range. They usually live in burrows in the lowlands. Gnomes are excellent metalsmiths and miners. They love gold and gems and have been known to make bad decisions just to obtain them. They love machinery of all kinds and prefer crossbows and warhammers as weapons. Gnomes, like most dwarves, but war with goblins and kobolds who steal their precious gold. They usually attack kobolds on sight. For every 20 gnomes, one will be a leader with 11 hit points who fights as a 2-hit die monster. In the gnome lair lives a clan chieftain and his 1 to 6 bodyguards. The clan chieftain has 18 hit points, attacks as a 4-hit die monster, and gains a bonus of +1 on damage rolls. Bodyguards have 10 to 13 hit points and attack as 3-hit die monsters. You can generate a 10 to 13 with 9 plus a d4, by the way. And so they attack as 3-hit die monsters. As long as the clan chieftain or leader is alive, all gnomes within sight of him have a morale of 10 rather than 8. So that's within line of sight, of course. If he's down in his lair and the gnomes are up on the surface guarding the entrance, that's a little different. But, why is your party trying to kill the gnome chieftain? Are you running a bunch of murder hobos? Maybe that is why. Goblin. The classic, basic, entry-level monster if you don't want to use kobold, right? We've encountered plenty of goblins in the solo adventure, right? Armor class 6. Hit dice is 1 minus 1, so you roll the d8 and you subtract 1, but never less than 1 hit point. Move 90/30. Again, they attack by weapon. Damages by weapon. 2 to 8 will appear in an encounter, or 6 to 60 in their lair, right? Save as normal man. Morale 7 or 9. And again, imagine it's a matter of the Goblin King being handy. Treasure type R/C. Alignment chaotic. XP value 5. And I guess we didn't get into P versus C, so we'll back over to the treasure section soon and do that as well. But R and C. Goblins are a human-like race, small and very ugly. Their skin is a pale earthly color, such as chalky tan or livid gray. Now, I know you tend to think of them sometimes more as green, right? And here we are describing them as more tan or, earthy or gray, right? Their eyes are red. They glow when there's little light. Goblins live underground and have well-developed infravision with a 90-foot range. In full daylight, they fight with a penalty of -1 on their hit rolls. Goblins hate dwarves and will attack them on sight. There is a 20% chance that when goblins are encountered outdoors, 1 of every 4 will be riding direwolf, which really ups the difficulty of the encounter. In the goblin lair lives a goblin king with 15 hit points who fights as a 3-hit die monster and gains a +1 bonus to damage rolls. The goblin king has a bodyguard of 2 to 12 goblins who fight as 2-hit dice monsters and have 2 to 12 hit points each. The king and his bodyguard may fight in full daylight without a penalty. The goblin monster morale is 9 rather than 7 as long as their king is with them and still alive. So, just with them. Let's get to that treasure. So we had RC and we had PC. Let's get the gnome one out of the way real quick. So P, again, copper, 3 to 24 per individual. C is their lair, which we haven't covered. Let's see here. 20% chance 1 to 12,000 copper. 30% chance 1 to 4,000 silver. 10% chance 1 to 4,000 electrum. No chance of gold. No chance of platinum, 25% chance of 1 to 4 gems, 25% chance of 1 to 4 jewelry, and a 10% chance of any 2 magic items. So that was on C. Coming back over here again, so, goblins could have that in their lair, as can gnomes. The P we covered. R, I believe we covered previously, but it's basically 2 to 12 pieces of electrum per individual, and then nothing else. which is a little unusual. Gray ooze. Armor class 8, hit dice 3 asterisk, move 10/3 feet. Very slow moving. It's an ooze. It oozes. It has 1 attack. That attack is 2 to 16 points of damage, however. 1 to 4 oozes will appear in a general encounter, but their lair is only 1 to 2. Fighter 2, morale 12. They don't have, basically can't break morale. No treasure. Alignment neutral. They're not really thinking items. They, they're it's an ooze. It's not sentient. XP value 50. This seeping horror looks like wet stone and is difficult to see. It secretes an acid which does 2 to 16 points of damage if it touches bare skin. This acid will dissolve and destroy normal armor or weapons in only 1 round and magic items in 1 turn. After the first hit, the ooze sticks to its victim, automatically destroying any normal armor and continuing to inflict 2 to 16 points of damage each round. Gray ooze cannot be harmed by cold or fire, but it can be harmed by weapons and lightning. A lair may contain 1 to 3 oozes, despite what it says up here of 1 to 2, possibly with a special treasure made of stone, DM's choice. So, even though it says nil here, maybe you can consider yourself putting a gem in there, because, geez, this, if it landed a hit, it's stuck to the party member, and it's eating its armor and inflicting a lot of damage. And, play up how it looks like wet stone. It can be quite hard to deal with. To even notice for the first time, it can be quite nasty. Far nastier than really what our next item is in the same in a similar vein. Green slime. Now, we always green slime is definitely encountered because basically Ghostbusters was a thing and Slimer was a thing. So people like to slime you. But it's far nastier than that if you're familiar with the movie, which I'm probably certain you are, unless you're a youngster. In which case, hi, I'm 50. Armor class can always be hit, as opposed to the gray ooze, which apparently can evade being hit. But it's an armor class 8, so it's not very good. It's only slightly better than an unarmored, undexterous human being. Hit dice 2 with 2 stars. Move 3 foot/1 foot, so it's slower than the ooze. As an attack, damages see below, number appearing 1, saves his fighter 1, has a morale of 7, so it'll try to flee, but it can only really move very slowly. Treasure type P/S on the slime itself, and a B in its lair, and somehow this is lawful, XP 5. Green slime cannot be harmed by any attacks except for fire or colds, which is kind of the opposite of the gray ooze. It dissolves cloth or leather instantly, wood and metal in 6 rounds, and cannot dissolve stone. Green slime often clings to walls and ceilings and drops down by surprise, which, but that's usually how it's used. Once in contact with flesh, it sticks and turns the flesh into green slime. It cannot be scraped off, but may be burnt off or treated with a cure disease spell in the D&D expert rules. You need a fair cleric for cure disease to have that to hand. And obviously, that's just going to treat one person with the problem. If you have multiple spells, great. When green slime drops on a victim or is stepped on, the victim can usually burn it while it is still dissolving armor and clothing. If it is not burned off, the victim will turn completely into green slime in 1 to 4 rounds after the first 6-round, 1-minute period. Burning does 1/2 damage to the green slime and 1/2 damage to the victim. So the slime is 2d8, so that's 2 to 16 points of hit points it has by itself. It takes half damage while you're trying to kill it from, just trying to burn it off. If you happen to have some cold, It doesn't specify that cold half damage is done to the player. So that may be a viable way of handling things, but what does cold? What have we read that does cold? Basically nothing. Uh, like I said, this is nasty. It's nasty in a different way than the ooze, but it is quite nasty, and it yeah. This version of the game can be quite lethal. What can I say? Um, Especially for newbie players, and if they have a mm, particularly heartless dungeon master, right? Um, Turning your player characters into green slimes, why not, right? Halfling. Oh, one more thing about the green slime. Think about player characters who don't wear helmets or hats, and how this is typically used. Yeah. Hopefully they have hair. Maybe that'll buy a little time. Skull cap, something. That bald head looked real nice until it had a green slime on top of it. Halfling. Well, again, continuing with our generic demi-humans, like I said, halfling. Armor class 7, hit die 1 minus 1. Move 90/30, attack by weapon, damage by weapon. 3 to 18 will appear when encountered, or 5 to 40 in their village, basically. Save as Halfling 1, Morale 7, Treasure type P plus S, and B at home. And we didn't get into B with the green slime. And it was a weird amount of treasure, and it's lawful. I don't even understand how a green slime is lawful. Neutral, sure. I'm not going to get on a tangent. I'm going to get through this page. But lawful. Really? I can see the halflings being lawful, right? I can also see halflings being neutral, but the monster encounter is lawful. Halflings can also be NPCs. They live in small villages of 30 to 300 inhabitants, despite this 5 to 40. Each village has a leader, level 2 to 7, and a village guard of 5 to 20 militia, each with 2 hit dice. Treasure type B is only present if the halflings are encountered in the wilderness. So if you encounter some kind of halfling camp, maybe they've been dealing with the goblin problem in their neighborhood or something. Oh, I just took the marker off my treasure page. Dang it. All right. Well, we wanted to see treasure type B, and I've picked up this shtick. I might as well go with it. B is a 50% chance of 1 to 8,000 copper, 25% chance of 1 to 6,000 silver, 25% chance of 1 to 4,000 electrum, 25% chance of 1 to 3,000 gold, no chance of platinum, 25% chance of 1 to 6 gems, 25% chance of 1 to 6 jewelry, 10% chance of a sword, armor, or weapon. Just one sword, armor, or weapon. So that's with B, right? And both of these have a P and an S on them somehow. A green slime has on it 3 to 24 copper pieces. And let's see, S again was 2 to 8 pieces of gold. It's in its pockets, clearly. The green slime's pockets. I'm not going to continue to rant about that. I'm sorry. I'm going to move on. We have 3 more entries here, and I'm going to get these done for this episode, and that's going to cover these pages. Harpy. Armor class 7. This is a classic Greek monster, actually. Hit dice 3-star. Move 60/20 on the ground, but 50/50 while flying. Attacks 2 claws, a weapon, and special. So the claws are D4 each, and the weapon somehow is a D6. Number appearing 1 to 6 in the wild, or 2 to 8 in their harpy lair or tree or wherever they live. They have nests. You work out where you want them. Save as fighter 6. They're kind of magical. Morale 7. They're not that brave. Treasure type C. Alignment chaotic. XP value 50. A harpy has the lower body of a giant eagle and the upper body and head of a hideous looking woman. So, woman's upper torso, you know, and arms sometimes on a harpy, but definitely the head and torso of a hideous looking woman. By their singing, harpies lure creatures to them to be killed and devoured. Any creature hearing the harpy's song must make a saving throw versus spells or be charmed. See page 23. If a victim makes a saving throw against the song of a group of harpies, the victims will not be afflicted by any of their songs during the encounter. So, once you've made that save, you're good. But, everybody has to make their own save, and it's possible one of your buddies will be charmed. At which point, you're going to need to defeat the harpies and subdue your pal, right? Or if you don't care, eliminate your pal. But maybe you don't want to do that. I don't think it's a good idea to eliminate your pal. You need them to live. These dungeons are dangerous. Hobgoblin. For that flavor of goblin that's just got that little je ne sais quoi, little extra, Armor class 6, hit dice 1+1 instead of 1-1, right? Move 90/30, attack and damage by weapon. 1-6 will appear, or 4-12 in a kind of camper lair. Save as fighter 1, morale 8 or 10. You can gather how that works if by this point. Treasure type Q on the Hobgoblin, D in their lair. We did D and we have done Q before. Alignment chaotic, XP value 15 each. So, 3 times the value of a goblin for XP. And their treasure is actually somewhat better. Hobgoblins are relatives of goblins, but are bigger and meaner. They live underground, but often hunt outdoors, having no penalty in daylight. A hobgoblin king and 1 to 4 bodyguards live in the hobgoblin lair. Their king has 22 hit points and fights as a 5 hit die monster, gaining a bonus of +2 on damage rolls. The bodyguard all fight as 4 hit die monsters and have 3 to 18 hit points each. As long as their king is alive and with them, hobgoblin morale is 10 rather than 8. It doesn't get into anything else about what are hobgoblins, what they look like much, any of that kind of stuff. I tend to picture them more yellowy orangey. And bigger, right? And usually better equipped because they're just, better off than the goblins because they, can command more out of them, usually off of weaker creatures around them. So, just human, right? Just human. Humans may be encountered nearly everywhere. This description deals with the occasional random encounters with 1 to 3 humans. Other groups of humans are explained in other entries: bandit, berserker, normal man, and NPC party, right? Which we've gotten to the first 2, we haven't gotten to the other 2. Human encounters can provide many opportunities for role-playing by both the DM and the players. They also create a more realistic mood for the adventure. In addition, they can be used to provide goals for the player characters and can lead to entire adventures. In some cases, the reasons for the encounter may cause some changes in nearby rooms of a dungeon. For example, if an NPCs are bait, the DM may wish to place a harpy in a nearby empty room, or to change a given monster to a harpy. Treasure should also be changed as necessary. An encounter with humans will require some work by the DM, but can be quite entertaining. The NPC humans do not need to be detailed as player characters. The DM may create each human NPC character in full detail or may use following procedure to find the necessary details. This same type of monster may also be applied to demi-humans if desired. If so, omit step 2. So we're going to move to the next page where we have here, look at this, a whole other column of information. My God. What? More than just simply a paragraph? Yes. So, type of human. Step 1. find the number appearing. Step 2, determine class of each. Roll a d6. So on a 1, you get a cleric. 2 to 4, you get a fighter. On a 5, you get a magic user. And on a 6, you get a thief. 3, determine alignment of each. Choose or roll 1d6. 1 to 3 lawful, 4 to 5 neutral, and on a 6, they are chaotic. Ugh. 4, find the reason for the NPC appearance. 8 possible reasons are explained below. Select one or roll 1d8. And I will say, you don't need to just be completely a slave to the dice rolls. If you think something's appropriate, you go ahead and do that, okay? And I mean that about all of this, not just about selecting the motivation. Possible reasons for appearing is down here. So we're just going to skip over to there for a moment to look at that. Actually, there's explanations to that as well. We'll come back. 5, select the equipment carried by the NPCs. So magic items may be added as desired. If so, the items should be used by the NPCs wherever needed. Remember that the NPC's equipment may become party treasure if they are slain, and powerful items should not be given out carelessly. And then step 6, add other details as necessary, either by selecting or rolling randomly for armor class, hit points, spells, and so forth. In a way, this is the can you draw the parrot example of can you build an encounter. How do I draw a horse? Well, first off, you take a sheet of paper and you get your pen or pencil, right? And then you draw a horse. Well, at least it gives you some framework to work off of, right? If you don't have any inspiration of any kind, at least it gives you like, okay, how many are appearing? I don't know. Let's roll some dice, right? And then like, who's here? Well, we're gonna roll our way through the encounter and just build it out. That's the thing you can do. Possible reasons for appearing: 1, alone and scared. The NPC has set out for themselves for an adventure, but discovered that the dungeon is more dangerous than they expected. They wish to join the PC party for safety. This is a good inclusion if you feel like the party's struggling. You're backdooring in an NPC retainer or something into the party that they don't need to pay. They can just agree to have this person along. Maybe they'll split treasure with that person, and certainly some XP should probably be divided into that pile as well. But, if they've lost their fighter or their thief or don't have a critical character that you need for an encounter that you planned, because, I don't know, Fred decided not to turn up this week because his girlfriend made him not show up, that's fine. You can have Fred's thief be temporarily relieved by, Fredina, the NPC, who's alone and wants to join the party, right? 2, bait. The NPCs are bait, either charmed or controlled by a nearby monster. The NPCs will attempt to lead the party to the monster's location without creating suspicion. The monster may appear while the NPCs distract the party. So, good examples of monsters to be baited to are like doppelgangers, the harpies we were talking about earlier. They will basically want to draw in and charm the player characters for their own purposes. Possibly an evil magic user could be used for this purpose. And then, they do their own nefarious things once they have their grips on the party members, right? Yeah, ideally, they don't get their grips on the party members. They see through the trouble and manage to overcome the challenge. But that's the whole nature of bait, right? 3, escaping. The NPCs were prisoners of a nearby monster but have escaped. They have little or no equipment. The monster might appear soon if aware of their escape. Now, you're going to need some kind of bad to be chasing them, possibly, if you want to do that. But, some kind of intelligent monster, humanoid probably, is a good choice for that. But spiders, it's not like the dwarves weren't freed from their cocoons by a certain hobbit, right? Or freed from the elves by a certain hobbit. or a certain hobbit relieved by another hobbit. I don't know what do you mean on what am I talking about? uh, 4. Looking for a friend. NPCs are looking for a friend, either rumored or known to have disappeared in the dungeon. The friend might be a prisoner or a nearby monster. Oh, sorry, prisoner of a nearby monster. So, they're in there looking for Fredina, right? Um, and that's okay. You could just place that other NPC somewhere in the dungeon. You can choose whether they're alive or dead by the time the party gets there, if they ever get there. 5. Looking for an item. The NPCs are looking for a special item, either rumored or known to be in the dungeon. This could be the same as your party, I will point out. Or it could be something that the party's completely unaware of that's going on in this dungeon. This could be a great way to drop a hook on your party, right? 6. Not what they seem. So the NPCs are not mere humans. They may be lycanthropes, doppelgangers, or gold dragons. Yeah, I'm just going to throw a party of gold dragons at the party. Maybe one gold dragon, okay? 2 at most. I wouldn't really put a lot of gold dragons in one place for most encounters, especially in the basic setting. Um, the DM should determine the monster type and run the monsters normally. So, lycanthropes are an excellent choice. They're going to look like human beings until they don't. And maybe they're going to get along with the party for the most part until they start, if they're chaotic. But not all lycanthropes are chaotic. Sometimes it's werebears. Sometimes it's werepigs. Sometimes it's wererats. They're not all the same. We'll get into them next episode because I see lycanthrope right over there, right? But, you know, there's a lot of lycanthropes out there. In fact, there's a whole expansion I actually want to get my hand on from the Creature Crucible. I'm still looking to add that to my collection. I nearly got one, but lost the auction. And I was so annoyed. Um, so 7, running away. Run away! The NPCs are running away from the encounter with the nearby monster. The monster may be chasing them. So they may or may not join the party if the party wants to fight the chasing monster, or the party maybe want to run as well. Up to you and up to the party, right? Determine what you want to use for this purpose. So, 8, sole survivors. The NPCs are the only survivors of the recent battle with monsters. The remains of the rest of their party may be found in a nearby monster lair. So this is kind of like Alone and Scared, but multiple people. And, we'll have some dead people that they've already lost, right? So, and there may be treasure that you may want to calculate in based on who they lost, or motivate these people to go and recover for their, the deceased family members or something like that, right? You can think of motivations as to why people want to do things for other people who are no longer alive, I'm assuming. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Do a little research on human beings. So that is the human encounter, right? That's been good. It's 48 minutes. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great day. I always appreciate your likes and comments. And if you have anything to say, I encourage your advice on this kind of just general encounter thing. Please talk about your tips and advice and how you would kind of build out an encounter of these types. Um, I generally don't work this way, but this can be quite inspirational, and I can see people using it, especially back in the day when you didn't have a lot of idea how to build encounters unless you read some modules, right? So, um, but that's enough me rambling. Thank you very so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.